2016 Ram 2500 Laramie. This truck had come in with various different issues. First of all, it came with an engine knock, and we had repaired the number 3, or was it number 4? Rock arms were actually popped off for some odd reason, which is indicative of high RPM. And in this case, luckily, the push rod and the rock arm were still in good shape. So we were able to save it and put it all back together in just the valves, and it ran okay. But it had a slew of other problems. Now, as you can see here, when I press play here, you're going to notice that Keon, we have an array of messages. Excuse me. And as you can see, the messages are all shown. We obviously want you to pay attention to the right and to the left. We have the depth fluid gauge inoperable and the fuel gauge inoperable. Now, we had numerous codes for the fuel level sensor. And in this case, you can see that the fuel level sensor is not working due to the fact that the gauge is not working. Now, once the truck starts, though, you're going to see that we got no check engine light. So let's get her started here in a second here as we look at the recording. So the engine starts. Yeah, that started didn't sound that great. And in this case, that's its idling. We have, again, numerous different issues. And please note the mileage, 21,724 miles. But you'll notice no check engine light. Now, the first thing we decided to do was to address the fuel level gauge and the lift pump, because the lift pump was also inoperable. Now, you all know there is a suction pump on the CP3 pump on this 2016 model, so therefore it was pulling fuel through the lift pump that's in the tank. So we understood we had a fuel level gauge problem, so we had to pull either the bed off or take the tank down to actually check the fuel level sensor. Now, the other thing I was looking at, which is what we're trying to discuss here on this presentation, is the depth gauge. So we connected the scan tool, and what we found was, well, we had quite a slew of codes here as I go ahead and look at the report. And as I play the report of all the codes that were on this truck, I want you to notice that there is nothing mentioned about the SCR system. Now, for those of you new to this, selective catalyst reduction, which has to do with the depth fluid system. And we got a slew of codes. Obviously, there's the fuel level circuit high code, which is tells something is disconnected or broken inside of the tank. We got a wheel speed sensor. I mean, we have a slew of different codes, but again, nothing related to the SCR. So one of the things that had me concerned was what's going on with the SCR. Now, I tried to communicate even to see if there was communication to the SCR module, and there was no response. Now, this is kind of curious for the simple reason that SCR is an emission control device. So you think there would be a communication U code to it. There would be a code set for it, send no communication found, inoperable, whatever. But it did lose communication with NOx sensor A right there, which is the U029D there. Okay, so there is at least something there. So as we move along here, one of the things I wanted to start off first is to address the SCR issue, see what's going on with the SCR. So as we look at the power distribution center, also known as your fuse box, located on the driver's side and engine compartment next to the battery, you're going to notice that one of the things I wanted to research is, okay, what is going on with the SCR module? And what I located is the fuses that are for this component. So since I couldn't fit the whole wiring diagram in one slide here, I decided to put it to you in part. So you'll notice there is fuse 69 right there, and there's fuse 19 there that provide power that come out of cavity 15, cavity 2, off of connector 5 that goes to this box right here, which is the power distribution center, which is, again, your main fuse box right there. Now, upon looking further, if I follow these two wires, let me backtrack again. You see there's a red wire and a pink and light blue wire, and that wire comes down to this box right here, which is, if I put it even better, is the SCR module right there. And there's your CAN communication right there. So what I found was there was no communication going to the SCR module. So logic told me, hey, let's check power going to it. So again, we have fuse power at pin 5 and fuse power pin 7 of the SCR module, which is this guy. Now again, what's applied power to it? If I look again, fuse 69 and fuse 19. So with that said, went ahead and looked at the fuse box right there, and we found that as we look closely, that we got a few fuses that seem to be missing. So here's the legend right here off of the same vehicle. There is fuse 69 and there is fuse 19 right there, which they call F19 and F69. So as I look closer on the fuse box, there we see again the hole where we should see 19. There's 19, and then over here is 69 right there. So I got nothing. And if we look even closer, if I zoom in, I'm like, well, that's kind of curious because these are for the SCR system. And as I look closer, you're going to see there is no contacts there, no contacts there. So we even put a fuse in there thinking that maybe it's way deep inside, we can't see it, doubt came in, but that was kind of curious on what's going on. So we looked even on the legend or the listing of fuses on the fuse cover itself, fuse box cover, the PDC cover, which is Power Distribution Center, and we looked at, there's number 69. So let me zoom it up a little bit for you. And what you're going to see there on 69, it says 30 amp or 15 amp, excuse me. I'm looking at the other side. And in this case, it says MOD SCR 12 valve. Must be for another application, but still 69. And then as I look closer over here, you're going to see 19, which I'm sorry for the dirt there, but it says diesel SCR feed. So yeah, we're on the right track. So when we went ahead and looked at the service information on the description, just to, make sure we got the right vehicle, maybe we got the wrong year, up or down, is it a 15, is it a 17? And we did find out 69 is MOD SCR 12 valve Cummins diesel. That's kind of curious. But then looked up 19, and over here we see 19. It's for a 1500 light duty diesel or a Cummins diesel, which would be the 6.7, and there's your SCR. So yes, indeed, we're supposed to have power there. So to recap one more time, we look closely here and we see fuse 69 and fuse 19. Those indeed provide power. Now, obviously, there is a relay here, and that relay is housed inside of the Power Distribution Center here, right here. So this is inside of it. So if this relay were to go bad, I wouldn't be able to replace just a relay, except the whole complete PDC box, the whole thing. So curiosity killed the cat. So if you look very closely right here, there's connector 5 on the Power Distribution Center, and then we see cavity 15 and cavity 2. So upon removal, we decided to pull up the service information regarding the connector in view for, and I needed to know which one it was too, which is connector 5 right there, right? So in this case, connector 5 is blue. So upon getting to the bottom of the Power Distribution Center, here we took it off and you kind of see the whole corrosion and everything going on. But we had to confirm what's going on with each of the terminals. So I look at the connector in view and the actual cavities. Kind of interesting here. You'll notice there is cavity 15, which we talked about there, and we'll review it in the diagram if you didn't catch that. It's supposed to be fused power, but here's another thing. There's another cavity 15, which means no connect. So that must be for vehicles that do not have SCR. And then we go ahead and look at, what was it, 5? Well, 15 was one of them, and then we had 5 too. But again, we're supposed to have power going to it. So once again, let me backtrack over here. We're at connector 5 right here at cavity 15 and 2. So obviously I'm showing 15, which is got 2 selection, and we had 2 sending power to the module. Now, so there you go. You're looking for 15, you go in 2, you see the ID of it. But, I got curious. It's like, well, first of all, I had no fuses there. There's no connection. I mean, did they put something different? What's going on? So I decided to go back to the service information and locate what's going on with fuse 19 and fuse 69. And the interesting thing was, when you look at fuse 19, you can see that there is, it says color not available, gender, male, option, standard. And obviously there was nothing there, except that when I looked there, it says what? That the fuse is internal. So, wow, that's actually showing that the fuse is internal in the PDC. So that would mean that if this fuse was burnt, the circuit breaker had tripped, therefore it's all internal. Now, I looked up fuse 69, as you can see here. That was 19, I just showed you, now 69. And in this case, it also states that the fuse is internal. So in this case, what we may or may not have learned is that in the actual PDC box, there is an internal fuse, both the 16 and the 69 that we saw earlier. And in this case, we saw that, once again, in case I did lose you again, let me go back to this one again. Again, this is 69 and 19, which powers up the SCR box. We obviously have a problem there. Now, what happened was, the reality is that we pretty much understood that there's no power. So we decided to go ahead into the connector and supply power, and it did come alive. So we obviously have something burnt within the PDC, which indicates that the fuse is not operational. Now, when I look closer here, as I move along here, we got an interesting thing. So here, as I play this video, you're going to see as I come around this truck and I have the PDC already sideways, you see we already have our our connector 5 removed. There you can see it there. Obviously, we had that on our clipboard to measure the voltages, know who's who. But if you look really closer, you're going to see that when I pulled up on it, what do you see right there? We actually had a wire that's frayed, but it wasn't to the perspective, which was 15 and 5. So in this case, this was a different wire, which we don't know what it went to. We could have counted and figured out where it went to, but the moral of the story is we found something broken there. So the customer declined the repair for the PDC. Don't ask me why, but in this case, we definitely saw a problem with one of the wires. And if you look closely, this wire was starting to get chafed too as well. I don't know if I can zoom it. See if I can zoom it there. Yeah, I can. There you could see the two wires where we saw this one's starting to get damaged, and this one was definitely almost had like one strand holding it together. So, but since the customer declined, we kind of, but I did repair this wire. I'm not going to lie to you. I couldn't leave it that way, so I did repair it. But the moral of the story is that, first of all, there's no fuse 19, there's no fuse 69. Well, technically there is, but it's embedded inside of the PDC. And two is, why did it not set any SCR codes that were, I mean, I saw a knock sensor code, but that's about it. I mean, there's no communication, and the vehicle was not in D-rate, and there was no check engine light. So I wonder if this is something that the manufacturer filed on or something, but we have no idea what happened at that point. So in ending, just understand that, we have an issue with this. So it's a good idea to know and understand using, and you notice I used the service manual to get that information. So definitely want to pay attention to those legends that tell you what fuses are, what they go for, and also understand that there are internals. Now, also the truck did have a problem with the lip pump. The lip pump was not operational. Again, no code set for that. So the truck was running thanks to the transfer pump that's already inside of the CP3 injection pump. So we also found out that the relay for the transfer pump is internal, also in the PDC. So the customer would have benefited by replacing the PDC to fix the SCR problems and the fuel lift pump problem too as well. So that's what we like to share with you. So there you go.